So, welcome, 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 and a big hello, church family of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Paul Pursuti, and I'll be your host tonight. I welcome you to our midweek oasis, our Wednesday night service. As you'll be able to experience tonight, our Wednesday night oasis is a place where we come together as a community to be spiritually refreshed between Sundays. Most Wednesday night services build upon the theme of the previous Sunday, sharing in a satsang style, expressing science of mind principles and practices with the intention that these gatherings be informal, intimate, and interactive. Our Centers for Spiritual Living's annual theme for 2024 is a grand rising. And our monthly theme for February is, that's how we've never done it. Last Sunday, Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman introduced ideas inspired by the talk title of It's a Brand New Baby Day. And tonight, our speaker will continue the exploration of the same topic. So as we gather tonight, I really want to welcome everyone that's joined us tonight. Early in her ministry with us, Reverend Sunshine Michelle invited us to come to the center well. And I received that invitation and enjoyed the idea that I, a long-term member, was being re-invited to the center. But she said she wanted to share with us these 6 C's for us to consider and incorporate when we were coming to the center well. She said, come with a heart of love and tenderness. The first C, compassion. She also said, come ready to exchange openly. Communication. Come in friendship and family. She calls that camaraderie. Come in harmony and ready to share. We'll call that communion. Come in partnership and cooperation so we can have collaboration. And most importantly, she said, come in spiritual awareness and truth, which she calls consciousness. As we move into the program tonight, these 6 C's are the premise of sharing a wonderful evening with you tonight. Now, if you're new to our community, if you're joining us here tonight in person for the first time, we encourage you to visit our homepage, www.oaklandcsl.org, and click on the I'm New icon and look at the lower left-hand corner of that page to submit your email address. Once you do, you'll be receiving the Village News newsletter once a week in your email. It has all the information on what is happening at our center in the coming weeks. So before we get started with the talk, please mute your own audio microphone during tonight's service. You can leave your camera on, but it helps with the transmission and the quality of our recording in tonight's service if you do mute your microphone. Please stay tuned and with us through the end of the service, where I'll be sharing special and important announcements. Right now, I'm pleased to introduce our speaker for tonight. It's Reverend Alena Hutchinson, and as I said earlier, she'll be speaking on It's a Brand New Baby Day. Let me tell you a little bit about Reverend Alena. She began her journey toward science of mind as a 7-year-old heretic in the Catholic Church, questioning why we needed to confess to priests when we could just talk to God directly. In high school, she began studying world religions, and after reading an article on transcendental meditation, she adopted a meditation practice. Reverend Alena joined a Unity New Thought Church in 1983, obtained a master's degree in spiritual psychology in 1992, and finally landed here at Oakland Center in 2003. Her almost 30 years as a practicing psychotherapist have inspired her to explore how we can embrace more fully the paradox, the challenge, and the adventure of being spiritual beings having a human experience. And she recently became a licensed Centers for Spiritual Living minister. So, congratulations on that. And we welcome you, Reverend Allie, to speak to us tonight. As we do with every organized event at the center, we open with prayer. Reverend Allie, will you be doing the honors this evening?
I've invited one of our practitioners, Alena Hutchinson, to do the prayer tonight, and her cat.
Okay, so everyone just take a nice, deep, healing breath, this breath of life. And just allow your body to still and your mind to still as you enter into this sacred space within, where the power and the presence of the one life and the one love exists and resides. What a joy it is, what a blessing it is to be one with the one. This one consciousness, this one mind, this one intelligence, this one love, providing for absolutely everything that we need in our lives, blessing us continuously. And I know every atom of my being knows I am one with the one, that God resides within me as me. And what a joy it is to know this truth. And as I know this to be true for myself, I know it to be true for everyone here on the call and not on the call, for everyone that will see the video in the days to come. And I just bless this time together, knowing we are truly blessed. Absolutely. We are flying on the wings of the divine tonight, being led by our sacred, beloved Reverend Allie, as Spirit fills her mind and her heart with the wisdom that is to be shared tonight. We are truly blessed. And the AV team everything is going perfectly. It's all being handled in the divine hands of God. And so just allow your hearts to open and your spirits to soar, and a divine laughter to be present as we spend this amazing hour together. And please join me in saying, and so it is.
And so it is. I want to make sure that I'm unmuted. Okay. Thank you, Paul and Alice. As Paul said, the Centers for Spiritual Living theme this year is Grand Rising. And the theme for this week is It's a Brand New Baby Day. Let's start our exploration of these themes with a little thought experiment. Imagine you're sleeping soundly. Just imagine it. Whatever tends to wake you up in the morning, the alarm, the cat, the garbage truck, wakes you up. And as you open your eyes, you see the morning sun filtering in through the window. It is indeed a brand new day. Are you rested, comfortable, filled with contentment and joy, and eager to see what this new day has in store? I don't know about you, but that is not how I wake up every morning. I've had those mornings, and they're glorious, but that may not be my average morning. Often my first thoughts are of some dream fragment with images that might be vaguely disturbing and angst about things on yesterday's to-do list that haven't gotten done yet. And I'm wondering if I remembered to set the coffee maker the night before, or I have to start from scratch. And then there's that other thought, if I turn on the news, what fresh hell are we going to be presented with today? You see where I'm going? All of which brings me to my favorite CSL core spiritual principle. We are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe, having a human experience. No matter how spiritual we are, we're currently experiencing our soul's evolution through the vehicle of a human body, mediated by a human brain, which science tells us offers up negative thoughts 70% of the time. 70. Mornings can be particularly dangerous. Scientists have done experiments with lab rats and discovered that they spend most of their dream time running the same maze they were running in the lab that day, over and over, still looking for the cheese. Their brains use sleep time to solve problems. So guess what our brains are doing during the night? Which is why I believe I sometimes wake up with what I call a sleep hangover, that vaguely yucky feeling that's not necessarily attached to anything I can identify, but probably represents the residue of that problem solving my brain's been doing all night. So Grand Rising, this year's theme, it invites us to face the new day with an entirely new attitude. It refers to a practice that some people have adopted of telling themselves Grand Rising when they wake up, or greeting others that way. Some have adopted a Grand Rising ritual to set the tone for the morning. Blogger Nicheless Netta describes why she and her family use Grand Rising instead of Good Morning. Grand Rising, she says, acknowledges the soul's reawakening following a night of sleep, an opportunity to reestablish a connection with ourselves and greet the day with a fresh sense of purpose and clarity. It transforms the ordinary act of waking into a momentous occasion to rise beyond the ordinary and shine. At one point, Netta called it the phrase a declaration of intent. And that's what it is, really, not just a greeting, but an affirmation. As religious scientists, we love affirmations. We know that our brains may deliver up negative thoughts 70% of the time, but we can counter them with more life-affirming thoughts. But here's another thing about how our brains work. In the words of psychoanalyst Carl Jung, things in the psyche constellate their opposites. So the immediate effect of stating an affirmation is your psyche offers up everything that would oppose that. Sit up in bed and declare Grand Rising, and your brain responds, oh, that's nice. Did you remember that email you got yesterday from your accountant or your boss or your doctor? The idea of adopting a practice of saying Grand Rising and starting the day with a whole new attitude is like a lot of spiritual prescriptions. It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. The moral of the story is not that we give up on doing affirmations, but that we recognize that we are spiritual beings filled with divine creativity whose words have power, and simultaneously acknowledge that we're human beings filled with, in our brains, with old thoughts, beliefs, traumas, our own and those handed down to us by previous generations, along with our own fresh imaginings about what could go wrong in the future. Spiritual and human, human and spiritual, two mints in one. If conditions and circumstances and the neurons firing in our brains conspire to make us forget that we are powerful spiritual beings in a spiritual universe in which the ultimate reality is goodness itself, Grand Rising invites us to remember, to identify a little bit less with our human limitations and circumstances and more with our spiritual magnificence. Then psychology reminds us that we can actually anchor our awareness of that spiritual truth more firmly if we don't ignore or resist, but instead work with our human selves. So that begs the question, how? Dr. Seuss made it sound easy. He said, you have brains in your head and you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. But the question remains, if my head is filled with thoughts of loss or worry, tasks, troubles, or just the ordinary chaos of daily life, how do I shake all that off and affirm with real feeling that in this new day, anything is possible? Ernest Holmes tells us that principle is not bound by precedent. In other words, underlying our physical reality and human conditions and circumstances, there's a spiritual reality governed by spiritual laws, including a spiritual principle that responds to our deeply felt thoughts and intentions. The moment we change our minds, something new becomes possible. But when physical reality is right there in front of us with all its drama and urgency, how do we turn away and put our attention, our faith, in mere possibility? Tonight, I would like to take a deep dive into the how. If we're starting the day with unresolved problems, too much to do, and legitimate worries, how do we not only say grand rising, but really embrace and embody all the possibility that that implies? How do we convince ourselves that the new day can be new, that it can be littered with unexpected moments of grace and ease and joy? How do we turn the page? How do we get from here to there? Whenever I think about that kind of change in perspective, I think about a saying of one of my teachers, Harry Palmer. He often noted that if you want to get from LA to New York, but you're checking the flight schedules from Chicago to New York, you're not going to get there. Because if you want to go from where you are to some other place, either geographically or in consciousness, you need to start where you are. That's why in the amusement park, they have all those signs with the big star that says, "You are here." You need to start where you are, not where you wish you were or where you think you're supposed to be as a good religious scientist, but where you actually are. So that's what we're talking about tonight, locating ourselves in time, in our body, in relationship to our feelings, in our thoughts, so that we can start where we are, turn the page, and get where we want to go, a place where we are more closely aligned with our creativity and power, with our divine selves. So let's start with time, locating ourselves in time. How many times have we heard that now is the only time there is? And how much time do we spend ruminating about the past, which we can't change, or projecting into a future that we can't actually predict? Eckhart Tolle says all negativity is caused by a denial of the present. Unease, anxiety, stress, worry, all forms of fear are caused by too much future and not enough presence. Guilt, regret, resentment, grievance, sadness are all caused by too much past and not enough presence. So taking a moment when we first wake up to say grand rising can be a great reminder to just center ourselves in the now, to acknowledge that we may have feelings left over from past events and things to attend to in the future, but the only thing we are actually experiencing in reality is now. Here's an opportunity to work with our human selves, our bodies, just by taking a few breaths and letting that center us in the present. And if you let your exhale be a little bit longer than your inhale, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system and relaxation and quieting your sympathetic nervous system, which is all about fight or flight and all those bits of mind chatter that Eckhart Tolle talked about. When we create more spaciousness in the moment, when we're present to ourselves and to reality, we start to connect to our innate creativity and power. And then it's easier to imagine that we can turn the page and create something new. And speaking of feelings, if we want to have a new attitude and more positive feelings, the second thing we have to do is start with what we are already feeling, with where we are emotionally. Our culture does everything it can to discourage us from simply feeling what we're feeling, to ignore our feelings, minimize them, judge them, and generally pretend we're feeling positive feelings when we're not. In Science of Mind, we call that spiritual bypass. If our power is in our presence, if that's where our power is, we have to be present to what is. We I think we all know deep down when we try to ignore our feelings or push them away, it just doesn't work. They pop up or seep out or explode at inopportune times. Neuroscience tells us that just acknowledging and labeling a feeling, an emotion, quiets that part of our brain that gets agitated when we're having unpleasant feelings. So a simple practice of saying, I feel sad that, I feel angry that, I feel worried that, is a way of working with our human selves and locating ourselves where we actually are emotionally instead of being in resistance to what is. Just affirming that I feel positive when I don't, it may help, but it's not nearly as powerful as acknowledging I feel sad or hurt or scared. And I know that spirit is working powerfully in my life in ways I can't even see. And I choose to affirm that in this new day, all things are possible. I know that feelings are a sticking point. There are all those yucky feelings we don't want to have. Two facts about our human selves might help. First, the truth is our feelings are there to give us information. Fear tells us we're in danger. Grief tells us to slow down and just give ourselves space to adjust to a new reality. Anger tells us there's a boundary that's getting violated or a need that's not getting met. And joy tells us to seek out more of that. Not wanting to feel our feelings is a little bit like not wanting to feel our legs. They're there for a reason. Feelings are a God-given internal guidance system. Secondly, Joan Rosenberg tells us in her book, 90 Seconds to a Life You Love, that according to neuroscience, feelings only last about 90 seconds. Your mics might be off, but I can hear several of you going, huh? So here's the secret. A feeling lasts 90 seconds if we don't add thoughts to it. But we do. Thoughts like, I knew that would happen. It's always going to be that way. It's probably my fault. There must be something wrong with me. Each one of those thoughts is dropping more unpleasant feelings into our space. Rosenberg makes the point that we avoid feelings because we tell ourselves we can't tolerate them, but almost anyone can tolerate a yucky feeling for 90 seconds. And that's why it's important to pay attention to your thoughts, to locate yourselves in your mind and intellectually. Our feelings aren't a reaction to what's going on outside of us, but what's going on outside of us as interpreted by our thoughts. It's important to acknowledge a feeling that's already there, but we can change our thoughts to create different feelings in the future. It is hard to get rid of old habitual thoughts. We all know that. According to neuroscience, our habitual thoughts wear grooves in our brain. They're chemical grooves that bring up those old thoughts before our higher functioning brain can even get in gear. But we can catch ourselves, notice the thoughts we don't prefer, and choose a different perspective. And each time we do that, we're creating a new neural pathway that can become more of a default. That's one of the main benefits of something like a grand rising ritual. It's a small thing we can do every day. And like any regular, consistent spiritual practice, over time, it can actually change the structure and the functioning of our brains to make that new way of thinking more likely. And then finally, we can use a grand rising ritual to locate ourselves spiritually. The world has its ways to capture our attention if we let it. As religious scientists, we're asked to know on faith that in every human condition and circumstances, even the most painful, spirit is there. We're asked to take in what our senses offer, the sights and the sounds and the physical things, and know that in, through, and as every part of that material universe, there's a consciousness, a creative force that is the ultimate reality, a realm of perfection and goodness and infinite possibility. It's a lot to ask to place our faith in something that our eyes tell us isn't there. Our Hebrew ancestors expressed it this way in Hebrews 1:11 or 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. St. Paul in 2 Corinthians 4:18 says, the things that are seen are transient, the things that are unseen are eternal. And in 1 Corinthians 13:12, he said, "For now we see through a glass darkly," referring to our imperfect vision of reality. The Sufi poet Rumi probably said it the best. "You've seen the shapes the dust makes, now see the wind. You've seen the foam churning, now see the ocean of flaming power. You've seen the shapes the dust makes, now see the wind." When our senses present us with what appears to be reality, can we remember that everything we see is ephemeral, temporary, that there is a greater power and intelligence within that physical reality? Can we look beyond the shapes the dust makes and see the wind? One of the best spiritual practices I ever engaged in was to just ask myself, do I really believe these spiritual principles I say I believe? Or are they just nice ideas that I want to believe? I had to admit that I didn't know. I located myself actually where I was spiritually and started there. And that living that question every day led to more awareness and more openness and eventually to actual belief, a belief that becomes firmer and deeper and more compelling every day. Eckhart Tolle tells of an experience of transcendence he had one morning when he had to contend with his human self and his spiritual self. He woke early in the morning with a feeling of absolute dread, thinking, I cannot live with myself any longer. Suddenly, he says, I became aware of what a peculiar thought that was. If I cannot live with myself, there must be two of me, the I and the self I can't live with. Maybe, I thought, only one of them is real. Tolle says that his mind stopped and he remembered nothing else until he woke up again. And then he said, the first light of dawn was filtering through the curtains. Without any thought, I knew that there is infinitely more to light than we realize. That soft luminosity filtering through the curtains was love itself. He describes walking through the world as if he was seeing the entire world and its beauty as something that he was seeing for the very first time. Tolle explains that it was only later he realized that his intense pain forced his consciousness to withdraw identification from his unhappy, fearful self, which is ultimately just a fiction of the mind, and to identify with his true nature, the I am. So by noticing and being with his thought, I can't live with myself any longer, he located himself emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually. And in that moment, he created space for something new. Our tasks as religious scientists is not to deny or to resist, but to be fully present with all of who we are, our spiritual selves and our human selves, because both are sacred, and to transform gradually our human selves, to refine them, to bring them into alignment with what Ernest Holmes called our divine individualization. Today, we look at the world around us and see the dust, and sometimes forget to be aware of the wind. We see through a glass darkly, but we don't need to wait for that one intense, dramatic, transcendent moment that Eckhart Tolle had. We can polish that glass with small actions every day. Actions like starting the day with a grand rising ritual. We can pause and take a few breaths and ask ourselves, where am I now in time, in my body, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? And now, where do I intend this day to take me? And then we can say, grand rising. As Rumi said, there is a morning inside of you waiting to burst. into the light. So I'd like to take just a moment of silence, maybe a minute or so, to just be with what you've heard and where you are right now. And when you hear the gong, we'll open up our cameras and see if we have any questions, any thoughts, just whatever is coming up for you right in this moment. Okay. I'm going to make this bigger so I can see all of you. Hey, folks. So, any thoughts?
So if you have a question or a comment or want to say something to Ali about what you experienced, if you'd raise your hand like this or use the icon to raise your hand down at the bottom or the top of your screen like that, so we can see you, we'll recognize you. Anybody have some thoughts for Ali? I'll go.
I think they all fell asleep when I said, let's imagine.
Good, Alice. Save me, honey. We see you. What do you have to share? You'll need to unmute yourself.
Well, I really, I didn't, my back went on Sunday, so I didn't make it to service. So I didn't watch it. I just nurtured myself. But when you were talking, Allie, I started to think about the grand rising and how I start my day every day with a grand rising by praying while I'm in bed. And I started doing that when I first started learning how to do spiritual mind treatments. But now I can't start my day any other way than with prayer. And sometimes, like recently, what's begun to happen is I get to the third step and then I fall asleep. And then I'll wake up and I go, oh, I didn't finish the prayer. And I'll finish the prayer and then I'll fall asleep again. But I'm starting to wonder and muse about what goes on during that time.
Yeah.
Have I really fallen asleep? Or what is going on during that time? And that's got to be a grand rising something.
Yeah, I think you meant in terms of it's all one thing and not discounting it.
Right.
That might be a very productive time.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, Alice. Someone else? Sherry?
Sharon, yeah.
Well, there's so much there. I wrote and wrote and wrote. Wrote on my little pieces here. It's like, oh my gosh, which one of these do I? It was all so profound. I think it's the most complete description I have ever heard of the relationship between the divine and the human, and all the different ways that you brought it in. Yeah, it was just amazing. It's whole brought, and the whole idea of feelings. We just had this whole discussion and Dr. Dan earlier today. So it all just, came together in this presentation of yours tonight, and more than a presentation. It felt like a touch of the divine to me, and it always does when you speak.
Thank you.
So I just really want to, yeah, I really want to honor you and thank you, and for bringing it into the human realm of starting where we are, you know, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic and the vagus nerve and all of that. I'm going, that was just one little piece, and then I would try to grab the next thing that you were saying. So yeah, I just I'm feeling it in my solar plexus, and that means I need to let it stay there and all of this roll around until I don't want to bring it into my mind too quickly, because this is where my learning is, in that space. And but I do want to say, I had to think about waking up this morning. I heard Alice too. When I wake up, I reach for my phone or I do this, and then I go, oh, good morning, God. And soon I'm kind of getting closer to saying good morning, God, before I reach for something. And then I allow myself to putter and not to do anything else. Make the hot water and lemon juice, and before I even sit down to journal, and kind of just be. So I don't wake up saying grand rising, but my actions are leading towards living from that place, I would have to say. So yeah, thank you for this. Once
It's
again.
like more of a grand rising ritual, which a lot of people have started talking about, like just what that morning ritual is that sets the tone for the day. And
Right, right.
you know, when you wake up and tell yourself, no, there's not a zombie apocalypse coming.
Right.
The day is going to be fine.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it takes me about 2 hours in the morning before I'm ready to face the day. And I don't have to do the same rituals all the time, but I have to spend that time reawakening into spirit. Thank you so much once again.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing person you are.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I
Trevor, go ahead.
agree.
So,
Sorry.
Loco Robert leads, you're recognized.
thank you. You recognize me, Paul?
Yep.
It's
Locally
me.
loco.
So, I want to push back a little bit on that zombie apocalypse thing.
It is coming.
I just want to say that so I've always, for most of my life, except for maybe a few years as a teenager, I was always a morning person and would generally wake up in a good mood and pretty cheerful. And what I notice is, like, the past couple of months, I'm waking up and I'm like spending time on my phone. And I'm beginning to recognize that that does not serve me. So that's something that I'm going to take under advisement about, like doing that less or not at all, or that kind of stuff, and kind of seeing how my morning goes without that. That's all.
Yeah. What's coming in and what we're having to metabolize, and how we talk to ourselves about it afterwards, and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I always advise my clients to balance their media diet. You know, we do Handmaid's Tale and Game of Thrones, and can they throw in some comedy? There are studies of, I always tell them this, there are studies of people, you know, with how this stuff affects mood, anxiety, stress, depression, looking at antidepressants, exercise, or watching Friends. Friends was 33% better. So we do, you know, we're just like we look at our nutrition, and, you know, we have to look at what's coming into our thoughts.
I prescribe Ted Lasso.
Oh, yeah.
Good show.
Well, anybody else?
I wanted to throw in something I learned from Oprah a long time ago. Say thank you 10 times when you first get up.
Hmm.
And I know generosity is a great fuel for starting the day, but you know how I am, so I say it 50 times. But
Uh,
recognizing in the moment, oh, it is a grand rising. Thank you, 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 thank you. There you go. That's one. You know. So just thought I'd throw that in, Allie, see what your reaction to that is.
No, gratitude practices are great. I mean, even from a psychological standpoint, they have a huge impact. It's like training our brains do want to go to the negative. We're training our brain every day to look for the good stuff. It's
Mm.
like, at the gym working out. So,
Oh,
Peggy,
Peggy.
good.
Elena, Reverend Elena.
Hey, Peggy.
Hi. I'm sorry I wasn't here for the beginning, but I'm so glad I was able to pop in.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I heard that resonated for me was about the question that asks, what do you really believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that really resonated for me. And pardon me, it brought back when I was studying to get the license, the practitioner license. What is it that I really truly believe? And of course, I really enjoyed the fact that you were quoting Eckhart Tolle, who is one of my favorites. I
Yeah.
have several favorites now, but I just remember reading a long time ago, and I went and grabbed my book just now to see if I could find the same spot. But basically, he talks about don't answer, don't, it's not the don't. Let me start with the positive. Observe the many ways in which unease, discontent, and tension arise within you through unnecessary judgments, resistance to what is, and the denial of the now. And so I was so pleased you brought him up, because what we believe often comes through for me, what I hear myself saying. Sometimes I say it out loud to other people. Sometimes I hear my inner voice trying to get me. But because of this wonderful practice of prayer every day that we do, yes, Alice Knudsen, yes, Alice Herndon, yes, 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 Peter, Robert, all of us, IKEA, everybody, Sharon, we just really, you reminded me, for me, I use the prayer to remind me that I am human and that is divine too, doggone it.
Yeah.
And that's divine too. And that it's okay that these things cross my path, because you've reminded me that I am a growing and changing and emerging and expanding spiritual being. So thank you for that, to bring me back. I so appreciated that.
Yeah.
The whole, I just wanted to say thank you also. Let me just thank you for bringing that out. Um, I too did not know what I truly believed about what Ernest Holmes taught us. How much of it can I, separate out and pull out those golden threads that were mine to use on my wheel to weave into the dailiness of my life. And then those do grow. And next thing you know, I've been weaving an entire carpet. So thank you. Thank you for that. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, what we're asked to believe when you think about what we're taught is we believe some crazy stuff. You know? So
Yes.
it's not easy. You got the new stuff and the old stuff, and it's in conflict, and how do you get rid of the old stuff? And often our thoughts are so familiar, we don't even notice that we're having them, right? So just getting that you're not your brain, you're not your thoughts, you're the consciousness in which these little objects are arising, and you can look at them and say, I do believe that, or I don't. I want to keep this one. I don't want to keep that one. So Thank you, Peggy.
Yes, yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. To always to lean into principle is a practice that I'm getting much better at now. And you've reminded me of that as well. So thank you, Reverend Alley.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you just tell me what the Rumi poem, what the title of that is about the dust and the, is there a title?
There may be.
That could go in the chat and, somewhere later or something. That's all.
Yeah, I may have it handy. If not, put your
Yeah.
number in chat to me and I'll
Okay,
let you know.
thank you.
Hold on. I may have it. It's called Seeing, Seeing.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anything else before we move on to the, oh, there's TC.
Hello.
Show yourself.
Um, I'd like to go back to this whole idea of emotions last 90 seconds.
Yes.
I heard that the first time, I mean, maybe like a year ago, and it completely fascinated me because, I have emotions from trauma from decades ago. And so I think most of us have not been taught how to move through our emotions. It's not something our society encourages.
Right.
So this idea that it's like it's a minute and a half. And if I can sit with this for a minute and a half and like you said, not attach anything to it,
Yeah.
then it can move on. And
Yeah.
that is revolutionary for me. Because I've been working for, like my thoughts and quieting down the critical voices in my head. I've got poems about that and so on. But, just the idea that being in the present means being in the present with emotions that don't always relate to the moment.
Right.
Mm.
But you're having the feeling right now.
Exactly. And so, I mean, I've been saying for a long time, I've been working on getting to the point where I feel contentment
Mhm.
because my life is objectively
Yeah.
fabulous, right? I mean, like, I don't care how, like, it's just fabulous. And I don't feel that
Yeah.
most of the day. And so, I'm sitting in the afternoon and then all of a sudden I start getting anxious.
Mm.
And then it's like, I don't want to feel anxious. So I do anti-anxiety activities, but hearing this, I'm thinking maybe I just need to sit with the anxiety and
Yes.
allow it to be and try to pull any thought tendrils out of it. I mean, I have this like vision in my head of like a thought bubble with all these little threads hanging out of it. It's like, okay, you have this emotion bubble and then all of these thoughts attached to it, and then it gets stuck and it can't move anymore. So it lodges itself in my body.
Or each one of those little tendrils is creating another bubble of feeling and another bubble of feeling and another bubble of feeling. And pretty soon you've got a pile.
Right.
Well, we're almost out of time. Let me just say briefly, yes, the trauma from the past, those feelings may come up again, especially if you have something similar in the present. But that's an old feeling that, it's in the now because you are feeling it now. You had a thought about or a memory or something evoked
Right.
that, right? Um, so it's not like you can feel a feeling once for 90 seconds and it's over forever. You may remember it again and you'll feel something for 90 seconds. I actually discovered this for myself before I saw her book. And what I found is that if you're thinking, let's say, angry thoughts, you can go around and around in that forever.
Hmm.
There's no way for that to resolve your anger. If you drop it into your body and feel just that visceral feeling, the heat or the tension or whatever it is, and just go, oh yeah, anger about this, and not attach a bunch of stuff to it, it's like a wave. It rises and it crests. You may find yourself trying to get away from it and have to go back to it.
Mhm.
What I would find is all of a sudden I'd be away from it. I go, oh, I need to go back to it, and it would be gone because it has a life cycle. You know.
Well, right. And the other point, just really quickly, is that because I didn't have this skill and I had all of these, emotion bubbles with all these thoughts attached that landed in my body. Now that my life is objectively fabulous, um, my body's releasing the held emotions. And so that's why, I'm sitting in my fabulous life, but I don't feel contented because I'm having this like release of emotions that got stuck there. It's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
It's and you're often working through a slag heap of old feelings that you weren't able to feel because everyone told you not to, right? So
Exactly.
once you work through a lot of those and drain the power out of them, it is more and more that you're okay, and then a feeling arises and you feel it and it goes away until the
Right.
next one comes. And ideally, we would just be doing that, right?
Right. But I'm not quite there yet. But fabulous talk. I'm gonna suggest Dave wasn't able to join us. I'm really gonna suggest that he listens to this.
Okay, thank you.
So
And Paul's sitting on his hands, I know, going,
yes, and I'm
Oh, no, I just wanted to add, thank you, TC, so much for bringing that up. That was a impactful thing. And the beauty of it is that not only is it recorded for Dave, but it's recorded for me to go back and listen to pick up on those points. And I really liked, Allie, the idea that those feelings, and they can be good feelings too, right? Um, or less than good feelings. They're all God, it's all good, yeah, and all that. But when it happens, I can go, you got 90 seconds. And after that, I'm done with you. I'm moving on. So you can stay here and be bad all you want. But you got 90 seconds to express yourself. Get it over with.
I would suggest a slight variation on that, which is, oh, I get to spend 90 seconds with you. What information do you have for me?
Mhm. I would like.
I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet, but I'll work
Can I,
on
s-
it.
can I say something else?
That thought has
And that's-
90 seconds. Okay.
and that's
All right.
that is why Allie is the Reverend.
That's
Next level.
Sherry. Let's go.
Yeah, I just want to say I was listening to TC very carefully also, and I've learned a lot in energy medicine. And what I hear you talking about is, for me, something I learned, and that feelings are different than emotions. And a feeling can be this 90-second thing, but an emotion comes into our bodies like you described it. And when I studied this, I learned that then it turns into ancestral things or generational things that you touched on as well. And it's all energy, and there's a way of moving energy. So I just want to keep that in a positive framework here too as well. And it's everything that Reverend Allie is saying too. Yeah, from the psychotherapeutic point of view also.
Thinking about what are the old feelings that haven't been felt yet and are lodged in our bodies and keep getting evoked, but dealing with the feeling that is there in the moment.
Correct. Yeah. And the chakras are involved, but that's a whole nother story.
There's so many ways to look at this.
So many ways to look at it. Thank you though for
You
the
got 90
conversation.
seconds, and then you're gone because there's another one right behind you. So,
Exactly.
so got your 90 seconds. Be gone because I got other 90 seconds to spend with other feelings. With that in mind, let's do something really wonderful and show our appreciation to Reverend Allie. Her first Wednesday night since she's been robed or whatever that is, stolen or stolen or whatever. We are so proud of you, Reverend Allie,
Yeah.
for serving our community. You're one of us, and you were brought through the ministry in our Oakland Center, which is right behind me, the entry. So we're just proud of you, and some of us haven't had the opportunity to share that with you. So
Yeah.
let's share that and say many more Wednesday nights, please. And tell your friends and have them go watch, because I think there's value in
Yeah.
the recording. So with that in mind, thank you so much, Peter. When you're ready, my friend, and I get my document going here, we're going to give you some announcements. And I've got a lot of good information, believe it or not, more than 90 seconds worth of information that we need to share with you. So we're going to start with what is going on Sunday. Reverend Sunshine will be speaking on Up Until Now, ... with meditation starting at 10 and following the service at 10:30 this Sunday, March 10th. Next Wednesday, mark your calendars. Practitioner Peggy Cotton will take us even further up until now, ... Meditation at 6:30, and our service will be at 7, and it will be in Zoom. Join our 2024 daily community spiritual practice using the Abundance Book, 40-Day Prosperity Plan by John Randolph Price. Today, we're on the 26th day of the next 40-day rounds of the program, which is the review again of the 6th affirmation in the book. Follow along daily in order that the affirmations appear. The book is available in our bookstore if you don't have it and you need to pick it up on Sunday. Join our 1-hour discussion group on the 40-Day Prosperity Program next Wednesday, March 13th at 3 p.m. on Zoom. And to join in that conversation led by Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman, visit our oaklandcsl.org website and go to the services from the home page and scroll down and use this very link you used tonight, the Wednesday Oasis service Zoom link. And she'll be there waiting for you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. This month, we have a new nonprofit partner, and it is 100K Trees for Humanity, or 100,000 Trees for Humanity. They are a Black-led urban reforestation tree planting organization. Their purpose is to help organize cities and communities to plant trees for climate and public health. They are planting 100,000 urban trees, or 1 new tree per resident. So we welcome them this month as our nonprofit partner. The season for nonviolence continues. It started January 30th, and it will end on April 4th, and it's running for 64 consecutive days. During this period, we're commemorating the anniversaries of the deaths of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. If you're interested to know more or receive information about it, please contact Linda Wyman at bookstore@oaklandcsl.org or sign up at our front table to receive on Sundays, the front table to receive daily affirmations during this period. Ramadan begins March 10th. It is the most sacred month of the year in the Islamic culture. Muslims observe the month of Ramadan to mark that Allah, or God, gave chapters of the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad in 610. We celebrate National Women's History Month in March, recognizing the contributions of women to events in history and contemporary society. It is celebrated during March, corresponding with International Women's Day on March 8th. Yay, women! We celebrate you. The deadline for submission of the Community Engagement Survey is Friday, March 8th. Most of us have it in our email. I am one of them, and I have yet to complete it. So please try to finish by March 8th. I will do that first thing in the morning during my Grand Rising exercise. It only takes 5 minutes to do. We thank you for all of those who have submitted their survey feedback. The next session of the Women's Spiritual Empowerment Group is on Sunday, March 17th at 12:30 after service. Please sign up on the events page at oaklandcsl.org if you plan to attend. It's a March mystery sale at our Spirit Treasure bookstore. It's a mystery, so I can't tell you anything about it, but drop in and see what it may be at our bookstore. For more information, please contact Linda Wyman at oaklandcsl.org. Save the date. This year's annual meeting and the election of the new trustees will be on Sunday, April 7th from 1 to 3. We're all encouraged to attend. It'll be taking place in the sanctuary and it will be viewable on live stream that day. Food will be available after our Sunday service. Daylight savings time begins this Sunday, March 10th. Breathe that in, Grand Risers. Because if I'm in the sanctuary and you arrive to church at 11:30, that means you didn't prepare. I find it helpful to reset my clocks before I go to bed on Saturday night as the time begins to change on Sunday morning at 12 a.m. So remember to spring your clock forward 1 hour. Do it Saturday night. Look at all these wonderful people that is on the next slide. These are all folks that are giving service to our community, doing wonderful things. We encourage you to visit csl.org, which is the website for our home office or the Centers for Spiritual Living organization, and check out what's going on there. And then also continue to visit our website at oaklandcsl.org and sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Village News. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for special updates and content you'll only find by liking and subscribing to Oakland Center. So right now, in a moment of gratitude, I say thank you to Reverend Allie, but I also say thank you to all of you because we've had a wonderful service tonight. And I want to joyously give and contribute so we can continue to do that. And I know we all want to do that through our time, treasure, and talent. So take whatever your gift is and hold it close to your heart and let's affirm. Divine love is me, blesses and multiplies this offering. It blesses all that I am, all that I give, and all that I circulate. Thank you, love as me. So a great and easy way to donate is right through our website. Click the little hearts button up there. Once you press that button or icon, you'll see 5 ways to give. Credit card, mail, Zelle, by text, or you can join us at service on Sundays and place it right in the offering basket. So in a spirit of great gratitude, thank you all so much for attending tonight. I want to give a shout out to Alice Knudsen for doing the opening prayer for Reverend Allie. Thanking Reverend Allie one more time for a tremendous talk and something I am going to revisit and refresh at. And I encourage all of you to do that. The posting should be up on Monday, by this coming Monday on YouTube. Also, I want to recognize Reverend Ikea in the audience tonight. Thank you, Reverend Ikea, for being with us. And thanking Reverend Dr. Sunshine Michelle Coleman for allowing us to have this space and place and this time to be together and enjoy each other's company and get refreshed between Sundays. Also, none of this is possible without a volunteer support team that does all this technology stuff behind the scenes. Peter, up in Portland, thank you so much for leading us and taking care of all the technical stuff. Spotlighting and muting and all those other supportive activities were done by Alice Herndon and Alice Knudsen. Thank you both very, very much. And finally, I want to thank Steve Carter, our administration person up in the office, taking care of business, gets us all the information so Peter and I can put our pieces together and we can present to you tonight in a timely, efficient, and orderly fashion, like all of those things. So with that in mind, thank you all again for the 10th time. It's real important that I recognize you um, for being here. And as well, it's time to close. As we open, we close with prayer. Reverend Allie, I believe you're going to take us home, so to speak.
So let's just let our breath bring us into the now, that place where we can shed our daily concerns and circumstances and connect in that quiet place with spirit within, knowing that spirit is always there in, through, and as us. It is the creator, the substance, the intelligence of our human selves, and it is always there. We bless this evening knowing that each word that was spoken, every word that was not spoken, the silences, everything conspired, came together to make the evening exactly what it needed to be for each person. I give great thanks for this ability to come together as one, to feel that sense of oneness that we are at our core, to let that sense of oneness go with us, drip off of us as we go into our lives, knowing that we take that connection, that feeling of our connection with spirit with us everywhere we go, that each person we meet can sense that, can feel it, can resonate with it, because we are more aware of it. We give great thanks for the joy that exists just in us coming together. And we close this prayer and anchor it by saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
Mm.